Okay. Hello and welcome everyone. We're going to be doing something a little bit different for our session today. We'll be working through and giving a kind of guidance for serious Buddhist teachings and practice. Serious practice and understanding of the Buddha teaching is quite difficult. For most people, even if they were in a situation to receive teachings from a monk or an enlightened teacher or anything like that, they wouldn't really be, so they might be ready to receive those teachings. Intellectually, their mind might be open enough to receive the teachings, but they might not be willing enough to actually go through the process of receiving those teachings. Because of the momentum of the ego, going from one thing to another. It's very difficult to receive teachings and receive guidance that is either setting out the path for you to stop going from one thing to another, or to realize the awareness, or to realize the nature of your being that isn't based in desire or fear or thoughts about things. So for me, when I got started on this journey and what led up to that journey was actually not anything other than immense suffering that I was experiencing myself and an awareness of a total inability to deal with that suffering myself. So I was curious. I was looking around. I was naturally trying to find a way to be free from myself, my life, my suffering, my ego, my problems. First, I found, just kind of leaving the life that I had known up to that point after graduating from high school and traveling in the US. Then I found spirituality, Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, found shamanism, and then I found Buddhism. But Buddhism didn't find me. That is, having a kind of a grounding in my life and a grounding in my experience that actually gave me a platform to continue in my life and to continue healing, until I stayed at a Buddhist meditation center for a year. So I wasn't a monk at that time, but I was a full-time resident. I was a full-time volunteer. I was a full-time meditator. And that year of exposure to real Buddhist people, it was like a Zen monastery without monks in America. That created this shift that allowed me to move forward. in my spiritual journey, my journey of healing, my journey of awakening. There are so many distractions in the US, and for Western people, it's almost like the culture is established in or built on ways to distract ourselves from our problems. Whereas Buddhism is the opposite. It's a culture that is established to gear us to face our problems, our sufferings. There is a lot of confusion online and in person, and just for Western people in general, when we talk about Buddhism or we talk about enlightenment or we talk about monks, because of how far removed that is from our capitalist kind of s- semi-Christian environment. And actually, Christianity in America is very far removed from traditional Christianity, Catholicism. We may not be able to have much success in terms of meditation or enlightenment or developing a keen eye in terms of the truth, even if we want to or would like to, or think that we're owed an explanation or owed an understanding of reality. Because not just in this moment, but in many, many past moments, we have consistently turned away from activities and ways of being that will make us receptive and willing to receive and practice the teachings of the Buddha. So, in a very real sense, for most people in America who are interested in spirituality, it's just as hopeless as a drug addict getting clean. Because what the teachings of Buddhism are offering us is just a finger pointing to say that you are an addiction, that you is an addiction, and that you, or this contraction around yourself and your story and your world, your worldview, is illusory and not in line with reality. This is also what modern neuroscience is telling us in various ways. And that what we know as ourselves and what we consider to be our either fulfillment or the disaster of our life is just a compulsive seeking towards pleasure, seeking away from pain, like an animal. And so you can imagine how uncomfortable and unwanted a message like this would be for most people, to say that they are more like an animal than they are like a human being. So what makes us human is actually our capacity to stop and reflect, our ability to look deeply into our own mind or to look deeply into the minds of others, which of course is very practical. You always have to deal with yourself. So you might want to look deeply at yourself. You're always going to have to be dealing with other people. So it's very skillful. It's very valuable to be able to look into the minds of other people. That ability is totally based on our capacity and our unique human ability to stop and to reflect, or to stop and see. These teachings of the Buddha, sometimes people call it teachings on non-duality or teachings on awareness, are entirely against our egoic compulsive self. For example, what actually allowed me to become a Buddhist and receive the grounding and the empowerment and the enlightenment of Buddhism, if you want to call it that, was not me reading Buddhist books or watching on a live stream and compulsively leaving comments, but living at a Zen Buddhist meditation center for a year. And the primary teaching of that center was sit down and shut up and face yourself. Sitting and staring at the wall for hours and hours and hours. So who would want that? Who could want that? A very, very small amount of people. And this is precisely the kind of willingness and receptivity that is necessary to receive the teachings on non-duality. It's no more something that could be explained to you than how to be a master carpenter or how to work on a house that's being built could be explained to you in a day, a week, a month. So our minds are quite disoriented in approaching non-duality. Our minds are very disoriented in approaching the environment where you have a Buddhist teacher or a Dharma teacher, a meditation teacher, sitting here and teaching and then saying, can you please explain it to me? Just in the same way, if you showed up at a job site, at a new job site, as a apprentice carpenter or someone who has basically no experience, and ask the teacher or ask the person leading the project to explain it to you. So this cannot be explained to you. This cannot be taught to you. The real teachings on Buddhism it is actually an education system of untaughting. Untaughting the knot of this contraction of me, of I, of you, of self. That this entire worldview is reliant upon. Now, my work here as Dr. Rob, founder of the Monk Life Meditation Institute for Research and this YouTube channel, is not to convince people to take me seriously, is not to convince people to take Buddhism seriously or to try and get people to meditate. My work and focus here is to create a space with gravity that attracts a lot of people, and a very, very small amount of those people are going to be interested, let alone sincerely willing or receptive enough to receive the teachings that we look at here.
That yes, and in a situation, please being public and stand down in the discussion. Thank you. Sin begin the lead. Sin begin the lead. Sin like that being like that. Sin the guy didn't pretend. Sin they did with a good area of Lincoln. Sin that over. Your attention beat. Your attention beat. You know, some governments say activity. Any answer. That's the being the situation. Please be power. As that balance of the expression. Then, to the beacon the lead. To the beacon the lead. Be that area right down. Then I didn't be tagged. Today you will be public on areas for our hand. See the number.
Learning to meditate is basically learning to face yourself or to face reality. And to face reality, to realize reality, to recognize awareness, you will first have to go through this barrier or this obfuscation of self. So what is self? Self is this contraction of thoughts. And as we go into the practice of meditation, we will have to decouple and uncontract from thoughts, from thinking. Now, in being here, it's very, very important that you learn how to shut up, that you learn how to be quiet and listen. If you cannot be quiet and listen, you cannot hear what's being said. And a major part of what's being said here, as it relates to non-duality or non-self, is non-thought or non-noise or silence. If you don't have any tolerance for silence, you are never going to be able to recognize or appreciate awareness. Awareness that is not based in or bound by words and or conventions and or culture of any kind. You can think of it like a sparrow representing enlightenment. The sparrow is enlightenment because as it flies, there is no thought about past moment of flying or future moment of flying. As much as the mind is fixated, stuck, believing in past or future moment of flying, then that sparrow is no longer flying. That sparrow is falling into duality, into thinking. Right meditation or right thought is no thought.
and understand and believe. Your attention needs. Your attention needs. The iron test of the Lord. And this is the experiments of holding worship. They learn to learn worship. To the begin the way, sitting the way, think they will get of them, and you'll think that like and the understand and believe. Your attention needs. Your attention needs. The iron test of the Lord. And this is the experiments of holding worship. They learn to learn worship. Super begin the way, super begin the way. Think they will get of them, and you'll think that like and the understand.
So when coming to join in the sessions and the teachings and the kind of spiritual entertainment that one sees here, that is on offer here at the Monk Life Meditation Institute, the most important thing that you can do is to stop the mind and listen, to stop the mind and see, to stop the mind and breathe. I only know myself through extensive meditation practice. So you are not going to be able to know me, nor are you going to be able to know what's being talked about here unless you can stop and listen and see for yourself. So the example of people here coming in and commenting during this live stream. Of course, it's possible for people to do that. It doesn't mean that it's right. And if you have enough experience in meditation or a higher degree of curiosity, you can begin to use your own eyes to see, your own ears to hear. And you won't be in this state of compulsively looking for something to say, looking for a comment to make, looking to make this a conversation. Because there is no conversation to be had here. Good. And it's possible that in the future there will be space for conversation, but mostly human conversation creates more problems than it creates solutions. And the conversation that we're having here is a conversation of our egos internally with silence, with awareness. The way that this ego or self operates is a kind of constant question mark in the mind, in the compulsion of the body, the need of the body for food, for water, for a certain temperature, to use the toilet. And this is precisely what we're working to kind of make an argument against. My job is to make an argument against the compulsion of the body, the compulsion of the mind, and the compulsion of speech, which will come out here as text, people compulsively leaving comments. What I can tell you from my own experience is that when I was a young man, I was very mentally ill. I was very disturbed. Not in terms of an outward appearance of being a crazy person, but in terms of my internal experience. And through taking these teachings very seriously with my whole body and mind, I can tell you that there's a very direct access in me to be at peace, to not think about other people, to not think about myself. And the work that I'm doing here is experimental. This is first of its kind work. There may be many meditation teachers or enlightenment teachers, wisdom element teachers is really what non-duality is supposed to be about. Non-duality pointing is teaching meditation from the side of the wisdom element or pointing towards the wisdom element. But these teachers are not willing to be limitless in their expression or in their work with the general public. This teaching is specifically not about you. In fact, this teaching is antithetical to you. You do not matter here. You are not important here. You are irrelevant here. That's why these teachings can be very triggering for some people, because you are zero here. This is also a part of the compulsion that people have to comment or to diminish what's going on here, or even to lift up what's going on here, to reify this sense of self. So what really is this sense of self? What really is this ego? Well, it is the same as what the future is. It is the same as what the past is. The past may very well be real. The future may very well be real, but you, here and now, will never experience the past or the future. And in the same way, from the lens of awareness or presence or willingness to be fully receptive, you will never experience yourself. You will never find yourself. Yourself is unfindable. It's kind of like trying to write the real true story of yourself. It's impossible because yourself is an illusion, but even if it was real, it could never be put down in a book. Even if that book had 1 million pages, it would be a small amount of all this that makes up yourself. Now, this is one of the important logic or true reasoning principles that we have in this enlightenment perspective, this Buddhist enlightenment perspective, that there's not actually something separate from something else in reality. Separation is impossible. So fire is not impossible. Fire is possible practically, factually. We know we can make a fire. People have made fires for a long time. But factually, practically, fire being separate from anything else is impossible. Like trying to start a fire in space, trying to live out your true self is impossible. There's no oxygen. There's nothing to feed a true self because there's nothing that feeds true separation. To the point that modern science says it is possible that when you lean on a wall, you will phase through it. Now, that's probably not going to happen. It's very improbable of happening, but it's totally possible. Because at the very core of your being, at the very core of what makes up yourself, whether mentally or physically, is space. Just in the same way that a book or a story depends on the space in between the words and the periods and exclamation points and question marks that close out sentences. Your self depends on non-self. Your thoughts depend on the absence of thoughts. So then this is a pointer and this is a teaching for you, for me, for anybody, anywhere, to recognize the absence of thoughts, to recognize non-thinking. Now I can hear a hand raising out in the distance that says, how can you talk like this? How can the self realize non-self? How can you talk about separation and say that separation is impossible? And maybe nobody had that question actually. So it's not my job here as a Dharma teacher, as a meditation teacher, to convince anyone of anything. If anything, my job is to unconvince. So if you have ideas about me, my job is to unconvince those ideas about me. If you have ideas about yourself, my job is to unconvince you of the ideas you have of yourself. Now, we can call this enlightened mind or this awareness mind your true self, but it's just a label to that which cannot be labeled. Some teachers, some non-duality teachers say, there's no point in meditating. Nobody can meditate. And there's a truth in that. But I wonder if they would say the same thing when they're thirsty or they're hungry. Can you not believe what you think? If you can, then that thought isn't you. So what is it that is believing? What is it that not what is it that is not believing? The you that believes something is a thought. The you that doesn't believe something is a thought. Once we start to see the interpenetrating nature of all things that dissolves thingness, we can learn how to think properly. Just in the same way that when we have the space in between words, when we have the space button on the typewriter, we can create stories or books or explanations that are practical. But until we can disentangle from this compulsion of real true separation, we will be very, very impractical in our lives. Our psychology will be impractical. Our way of relating to our experience will be impractical. Our way of relating to other people will be impractical. And so what is the off gas or the kind of excretion of impracticality? Greed, anger, and delusion. Lobha, dosa, moha. So these are Buddhist terms. As much as I try to make the teachings accessible to you, the person who's watching this live, listening right now, actually, I might as well make them inaccessible, because what you are willing to do does not depend on me, because you and me are at our core empty. Just like the particular shape of a cloud in the sky right now is empty. It appears it appears as a solid shape, but it's not actually solid. So in the same way, your thought about yourself, your thought about the world, your thoughts in general, all thoughts about all things or anything or whatever thing appears solid, but is actually not. And so the very far end of not having access to that wisdom is seeing a face in the sky and having a paranoid schizophrenic breakdown for the rest of your life, not realizing that that's just a cloud, it's just an appearance, just a dream. And the other side of this dynamic of seeing the impermanence in everything, the non-self in everything, the awareness in everything, is freedom from life and death, is freedom from coming and going, is total and complete amnesty from yourself and your life and your identity right here and right now. So we can look at something like this, for example. This would be commonly called a flower, but in Vietnam, they have a different sound for flower. In Myanmar, they have another different sound for flower. In India, they have another different sound for flower. So flower itself has nothing to do with this. It's just a sound of labeling. We may question, is this a real flower or is this a fake flower? In reality, there's no such thing as real or fake, just like there's no such thing as up or down. These are arbitrary labels onto this and that, basically the creation of things, when in reality, things cannot exist because things depend on differentiation. Things depend on labeling. Things depend on separation. And just like a tree cannot exist without the earth, just like a human being cannot exist without the universe, separation cannot exist without non-separation. As we start to empathize with non-separation, or empathize with non-duality, or empathize with awareness, we can begin to decouple from that term as well, from that idea as well. The teaching isn't just to let go of these things and start holding on to those things. Although practically, if we want to work together, if you'd like for me to work with you as a teacher, if you'd like to go further along in the path of Buddhism or enlightenment, if you'd like to argue or challenge me in some way about my understanding, then practical concerns come up and we communicate with one another. And us communicating with each other is just like me communicating with this flower. It's not more or less than that. Now, where did this flower come from? Where did that thing come from? I think we all have a thing we really desire, a thing we really fear, a thing that we're very proud about, a thing that we're very ashamed about, etc. So how did this thing come about? Where did this thing come from? Well, of course, it came from me. How could it come from anywhere else but my direct experience now? And so this is an art, this is a training, this is an education system in learning to redirect the mind from over here and over there and wuzamajimedaba to right here and now. And right here and now is confusing because it puts a point on a pointless space. What is the point of being alive? There is no point. There is no Saturn. There is no moon. There is no no. But if something is brought up, then at this point, it's your choice. To give this life or to kill it. And every moment that's happening, every moment that's happening. Now, this non-duality and this awareness is actually absurd. It's absurd in the same way that mathematics is absurd as any kind of absolute law or absolute truth. Even the highest proofs and the highest, most accurate mathematics would just be a monkey making noises or writing down symbols. So I'm talking a little bit too much, perhaps, but I wanted to share a little bit, give people something to roll over, and we'll open up space for questions if anyone would like to ask a question. We also do have a call-in number. On WhatsApp. This is not a number for anyone to use. This is a WhatsApp number. If you call it on your normal phone, I will not receive the call. So the most important technique and teaching for getting into the meditation and forgetting all the ego and the bullshit and the self is forgiving everything that you've known about until now. Maybe entoiled and entrapped and worried and desirous, etc. So you forgive all that involvement. And we replace that involvement with a willingness to be uninvolved. A willingness to simply be. And if there's pain, simply be with pain. If there's heat, simply be with heat. If there's thoughts, simply be with thoughts. But you don't reach up into the mind and take one of those thoughts and then identify with it. The Buddha said that holding on to anger with the intention to harm someone else is like holding on to a hot coal. And in the same way, holding on to a thought with the intention to give it to someone else is like a thought holding on to a thought. And it doesn't make sense how little sense that makes. And this is not practical or logical for the self. This is anti-self teachings. And I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly impressed by the modern self regime in America and in many places. Some people have reached out and asked, why am I spending or why do I spend so much time doing this? Why do I spend so many hours a day live streaming? Because from my life experience, there's no more valuable way to spend my time than being together with others and being concerned or trying to be concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, meditation, enlightenment, non-duality, spirituality, etc. I can't find any better use of my time than that. If I do find a better use of time, then I'll go do that. And this is a little bit like creating music without being able to hear the music that you're making, or just being able to hear a very, very small amount, kind of like being halfway deaf. Because if the community was here, then I would be looking at how you relate to this, how you relate to that, how the energy shifts and changes moment by moment to help direct the teachings. But my job is really as a spiritual life coach. As a former Buddhist monk of 8 years, I have a lot of experience learning how to gear my life to be founded and established on spirituality, on mindfulness and detachment, on wisdom and compassion. And I'm slowly developing that more and more. And this is a part of my practice of continuing on my journey. And if you would like for this to be a part of your practice on continuing in your journey, then you're very welcome. And that supports me to continue on my journey in a very realistic and practical way. Do we have any questions? Practice. Practice with detachment. And if you can identify someone as a teacher, then you build faith, you build trust in them. You see them as the Buddha, you see them as way more enlightened than you. And you take refuge into their continued practice. You try to form a relationship with them based on generosity and based on reverence and based on curiosity. Hello? Who's this?
Brad, beautiful, top before.
What did we talk about?
Wanted to become a monk, and we talked about it. You told me to call you back about becoming a monk.
Sounds like you're going through some things.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Give me some information, if you can. Where are you right now?
I'm in Arizona.
What are you doing there?
I'm trying to become a monk. Are you streaming?
Well, how are you trying to become a monk? I don't understand.
We talked one time on one of your streams. I'm talking quietly because it's like midnight where I am. And I'm a little upset. It's a full moon right now. Almost a full moon. I mean, less than a full moon. 80% full. About. um, I'm trying to become a monk. Um, I um, I love people like you. You know, I love people like you.
You are trying to become a monk? How is it? How are you doing that? How are you trying to become a monk?
Um, I have a we, as I said before we talked. Um, I think maybe probably about like 3 weeks or a month ago or something like that. And I told you there was a monastery like 2 hours away from, like about 2 hours north of me. Um, excuse me. Um, there's a Rinpoche about 2 hours north of where I live. His name is Garson Rinpoche. Like Garchen Rinpoche. I think he's a guru, and I'm trying to like purify my mind. I like you asked me how exactly I'm trying to become a monk. I'm trying to purify my mind, and I have to tell you, I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Well, you're not. I'll be straight with you. You're not going to be becoming a monk at Garchen Institute. That's not going to happen.
yeah.
So, what's your financial situation as a drug addict, alcoholic?
I I live with my dad.
Yeah. Well, brother, you're gonna have to slow down. I mean, that's the more that you slow down, the more you're gonna be able to approach these things in your life. What else are you taking besides alcohol? You're making me want a beer. Seems like you got a lot going on, man.
Man, it's I wish I wish I wish more people were like you. I'm not trying to flatter you, but I wish more people were like you because, man, I've been trying to get sober for a while, and nobody knows anything about Buddhism or like non-duality or like a rigpa, you know. I feel like
Well,
I've
look,
experienced.
how serious are you about this, man? I mean, what are you willing to do? I mean, it sounds the way that it sounds right now.
Die.
You'd be willing. You
Die.
wouldn't be able to get to a McDonald's. It sounds like the way you are right now. Well, if you're willing to die, I always tell this to people who have suicidal ideation. I
No,
mean,
no. I'm not suicidal. I'm willing to give my life for you.
all right. Well, how much money do you have?
Nothing, man. I have nothing. I have nothing, dude.
And if you got some, you'd spend it on drugs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? I mean, I can't imagine that. What do you use besides alcohol?
use like a synthetic opioid. Like it's not like fentanyl or it's called I don't even
Kratom
know the
or
yeah
it's the
yeah
Cradavil. It's the gas station fentanyl, right?
yeah something like it's like something like that. I always forget. I can tell you the name. But I have to think. It's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah. I know about it. I know about it. So how long have you been like this? How long have you been in this situation?
um man like um maybe like I mean it's been my like I gotta tell you dude it's been like my it's a long story you know.
Well, don't
Every
tell me.
addiction.
I don't want to hear a long story. That's for the AA meetings. Just how long have you been in this situation? This addiction situation.
My whole life man, my whole life.
How old are you now?
I'm 29.
Are you willing to go to California in a couple weeks to and join the group and meet my teacher?
I'm willing to do anything, but
But you can't, right? Because addiction.
right.
Well, so how do you get
Exactly.
money? How do you get money for booze and fentanyl, gas station fentanyl?
I had a bunch of silver saved up, and I sold it today, and I pawned stuff at a pawn shop. Yeah, I was the one. Yeah, I was the one that told you I was a machinist. Do you remember me now?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I knew you would remember me because I'm psychic too.
Well, you're
But nobody
definitely
understands.
something. Yeah, you're crazy more than anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah, for sure, man. But also, I have acidities too.
You're a lunatic, but listen to me for a sec. If you have cities and you have this and that and you can talk to me this way, if my teacher is coming to do a big trip in America, why don't you go and join?
Sorry, what did you say? You said your teacher going to California?
Yeah, not just going to California, he's going to be doing a road trip all across the US. So why don't you go and join and participate?
I mean, I have, I need you. Can you please look up my master right now?
The Garchin guy?
Yeah, yes, please.
I know the
Garcia.
Garchin guy. I'm just telling you, these Tibetans do not care about people like you. And they don't care about white people in general. They want the money. They want to live in Milan. They want to enjoy their momos, Tibetan momos. So that's fine, man. But I was telling everybody in the beginning of this live stream, if you want the Buddhism to go into you, you have to practice. You have to train. You have to immerse yourself. And that Garchin place wants nothing to do with a lunatic like you, for sure. For sure, man. They don't like that stuff. They don't work with that stuff. They don't care.
Well, you don't understand the.
No, you don't
level of-
understand, man. I'm telling you, it
No,
doesn't
no.
work
Hey,
that
hey,
way.
Please, my friend, please listen to me now. Can you
Just
hear me?
like you told me to call you now. What do you got this stick up your ass for, Brad? I mean, this is the thing. If you got cities, if you got psychic powers, that's great. But you're a fucking alcoholic, man. You're a drug addict, lunatic. No offense. I'm just saying. That's how you're telling me. That's what you're telling me. So you can't have
you're
it both ways. It doesn't make any
You're
sense
right.
to have it both ways.
No, you're right. You're right.
And I don't want you to drive yourself more crazy. I want you to say, okay, I'm crazy, but I can do anything that I want to do. And if you want to get more involved with Buddhism, then you got to go and dive in, man. You got to take a step off the bridge. And I can support you in that opportunity, but you're all kerfuddled up. You think you're a drug addict lunatic, and you also think you're a spiritual Rigpa king. So you gotta just say, wait a minute, I'm a human being, and I want a journey. And you know why you've been addicted? Why you're addicted, man? Because you haven't gone on any journeys. You haven't gone through any process. You got to get out there. You got to cross your limit. And the nature of having any kind of spiritual advancement is that you're not limited by your limits. You see it and you say, well, I'll step right over that boundary because maybe there's a possibility out there. So, they say the rock bottom, there is no rock bottom. Everybody's already at rock bottom with their ignorance and their attachment.
And that's why I love to talk to people like you, because you realize that there's no limits to limitation.
Well, this is just the ravings of a lunatic. I mean, you got to do something else with your life, man. You're living a shit fuck life. And there's no reason that you need to keep doing that. And if don't you want to get out? Don't you want to escape?
Yeah.
So what's the next step for escape? More fentanyl, more alcohol? You're making me want to drink, you're making me want to smoke. I can't imagine how it's going on inside there. Yeah, you got cities, all right. You make people want to smoke and drink like you.
That's true, man. That's true. That's true, man. And I love talking to you. I can I just tell you this, that you're
Sounds like you're going. I'm hearing crazy weird sounds over there, my friend.
Yeah, I have indigestion. That's what it was.
Where are you? Are you under a bridge or something? I mean, where are you right now? Are you at the back end of a gas station?
No, I'm in the backyard. I'm under the full moonlight right now.
Let me see. Can you turn on your camera? Let me take a look.
Can I do that? Or
Yeah.
Just have the camera? Okay. You see my face. Don't cast a spell on me. Can you see
Okay.
me?
Okay, I won't cast a spell on you. No, you got to turn it on. You got to turn on your camera. Let me see here.
Hello. Can you see me?
You need to be brave, man. You need to get brave. I'm sorry, but you're pussyfooting around. You're not trying to become a monk. You're trying to make sure that you got, beer for tomorrow. And it's just not necessary. You got to step out, man. You got to be willing to step out. Does your father need you or something? He'd probably be happy to get rid of your drug addict ass for a little bit. Right?
I mean, probably.
Well, you're not going to be able to break out of this karmic situation unless you can, be willing to sacrifice your life and step out, man. I mean, it's totally reasonable. It's not a big deal. What you're going through is not a big deal. Your state, your drug addiction, etc., is not a big deal. The big deal is your self-cherishing. For you to be in control, for you to be the number one person who's going to be a monk and who's thinking about spirituality and whatever. That's the biggest problem, man. You're self-cherishing. So you need help to get rid of that demon. It's not even a big problem. You're just lost in the sauce. And there's no reason for you to not be lost in the sauce when you're just living at that place that has all this karmic nightmare in it. All this karmic attachment soaked into the walls and soaked into the fabric on every clothes that you have. So get a fucking bag and hop on a bus or take a flight to LA, and my teacher's going to be there in like a week. And you go there and you be a volunteer and you be a fuck up over there with the Sangha. you know. I'm sorry. I mean, that's the intervention program that I have available for you. You know, that's the rehab that I have available to you. But it'd be full on Buddhist, you know, if that's really what you're serious about.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've been pretty serious about it for a long time.
Well,
Um,
looks like a nice enough place.
what's that?
Looks like a nice enough place that you're at.
Yeah, I'm in the backyard. You know, this is Arizona. Did I say that?
Yeah,
Gilbert,
yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wish you well. I hope you get some help. I hope you sober up and think about this offer, this opportunity.
Yeah. So I have to ask you. Can I ask you like 3 questions?
Well, you can try.
Can I ask you? Can I try to ask you 1 question?
Try to ask me 2 questions at the same time. Can't do that, can you, Mr. City? All right, go ahead. Ask your goddamn question. There's nothing wrong with being crazy. There's nothing wrong with being a lunatic.
So, have you truly tasted enlightenment? Have you?
He's wasted. Just like GTA 5 screen, wasted. Crystal, you can call in on WhatsApp. You can call in on WhatsApp. You cannot call in the normal way. You need to use the WhatsApp number, and I can see that you did call in with the normal way.
Hi, my name is Crystal Lyndon Dachies. I would just like to say I'm watching your YouTube channel, and what a great channel that is. Thank you very much for the exercises that you do, the breathing exercises, and some of the meditation exercises. They have really helped me. I'm kind of really bad at this, but I do appreciate it, and just wanted to wish you all the best in your endeavors or whatever they're called. Sorry about that. Okay, have a great day or evening. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much, Crystal. That is fantastic.
Hey, Dr. Rowe. I was trying to talk to you because I like to talk to you. And I can see you. And that's it.
Who's this? Hello, who's this?
Huh?
Who's this?
The one you just hung up on?
All right, what can I do for you?
Sit here. You think I'm joking?
What did you eat to have so much indigestion? How much have you had to drink?
Did you hang up on me?
Listen, what do you want, man? What do you want to say?
Did you hang up on me?
What the hell is going on over there? It sounds like there's a gremlin in the background. I want to know what you ate so that I don't eat that.
Do you know what the Naga realm is?
I know that you're a lunatic. Do you know that? Do you know what the lunatic realm is of being a drug addict, thinking that they have special powers? Do you know that realm? Have you heard of that realm?
Can you access your camera?
I saw you. Yeah, I can access my camera.
Do you know what the Naga realm is?
What do you want to say? I'm not here to be interviewed.
Did you hang up on me?
What's going on, man? Why do you keep repeating the same thing over and over again?
Did you hang up on me?
Did you call me?
Yes, I did. Did you hang up on me? The Naga realm is a place that you will go when you have mystical insights, but you failed to help your brethren. And so you shall enter there. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll be meeting him there. Look, everybody, you got to be willing to help yourself. There's only so much that someone else can do for you before you have to look in the mirror and ask, what can I do for them? Yeah, dangerous, crazy, drug addict, thinks that they have special powers, thinks that they're spiritually superior to others. The thing is that there's not really an incentive for me to convince other people of something. You know, there's a little incentives here and there, there's possibilities, but it's not my interest. You know, there's just not that big of a motivation for me to try to convince anybody of anything. So I'm kind of speechless in many ways. And if somebody wants to call in or leave a message on WhatsApp, you're welcome to do that, as long as it relates to serious Buddhist teachings. Or if you're a drug addict that thinks you're enlightened, then that's okay too. Crystal, you call in and that's how it works. I don't know. We got your message, Crystal. We got your message, so I received what you said. How about Bodhidharma's teachings? How about non-duality? How about enlightenment? How about enlightenment here and now? How about that? Vedantin is just about detaching from your current understanding. That's what Vedanta is about. And Advaita Vedanta is that there's no understanding to begin with, that understanding is impossible. Whatever views, whatever perspectives, whatever notions you are currently holding on to, drop those views, drop those notions, drop those beliefs, and imbibe in awareness. You're not going to level up until you can meditate more seriously and more consistently now. It's not a conversation. I don't have conversations with weaklings. I have conversations with people who have put in the work. Nobody cares, CJ. It doesn't matter. I mean, people think I'm being harsh or something by saying this. But, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't like Buddhist teachings. It's like going to a college while a university lecture is being taken place on Buddhism and raising your hand and saying, I don't like Buddhist teachings. Who the fuck cares? You're crazy. That's a crazy thing to do. And yes, I'm sorry, but this is a similar environment. This is a similar situation. How far do we want to go down the rabbit hole of meditation or non-duality or Buddhism? Well, we can go as far as we're willing to let go of the current thoughts that are going on in the mind. The current ideas that are going on in the mind. And to let go is just to allow. Thoughts are there, so what? And then you won't look like a fool, raising your hand and talking about what you like and what you don't like, and what you think is required. This is not a conversation. Next machine, why don't you call in on WhatsApp? You seem like a lunatic.
Of 31 suppressed anger and resentment. So I just sat there and watched it. And I didn't have any teacher for that. It wasn't something I acquired from some wise sage or monk, but there was nothing I could do but just sit there in a helpless state and be absolutely miserable. And that lasted for about 3 months.
During those 3 months, were you trying to get a handle on it or work with it in any way, or were you just basically sitting with it without trying to do anything about it?
I wasn't trying to stop it. I did at first. Because basically I'm a very kind person. And that's how I wanted to perceive myself. And so, you know, the feeling guilty, you know, you should love your parents and be grateful and respect the Buddha. And I even saw the Buddha Rupa in my kuti as evil. I remember sitting one night that we just had candles for light. There was no electricity. And I lit a candle and put it under this it's a very beautiful Buddha Rupa too. And the daylight is quite, you know, a beautiful face. But with this candle flame burning underneath it, you know, and right in front of it, it's and shadows around the face of the Buddha. And I just felt suddenly terrified that even the Buddha is evil. But it's through that kind of terror, fear is another emotion I repressed with Vipavandanha. You know, I didn't want to show fear.
Or experience it.
Or experience it.
Yeah.
I used to laugh at when I was a boy going to horror movies. My sister would actually get terrified, but I just laugh at the kind of corny film that I was looking at. So I had at one time, some of my friends in the neighborhood I lived in Seattle, there was a haunted house not far away. It was an empty, deserted, vacant, derelict house. And it was supposed to be haunted with ghosts. And so we all dared each other to go into this haunted house, and we went near it, and I was the most brave. I entered the cellar door that was open, walked into this spooky cellar of this haunted house. And there was nothing there. But seeing myself as brave and fearless, you know, was a positive, seeing myself in a positive state. But then over just being alone in the dark, in a Thai meditation monastery, you know, suddenly the darkness overwhelmed me, and I began to imagine, you know, because in the dark you don't know what's there. And there was no moonlight at the time, so there was just pure black darkness, and the imagination then can imagine anything. So the candle flame flickering in front of the Buddha Rupa can make it look evil if you imagine it that way.
During that period, did you ever kind of intentionally pay attention and notice the difference between the objects of anger and fear and just the raw emotion itself as it's experienced in the heart without necessarily going out to the objects of it? Or does it all just come up as a package?
I'm going cuckoo. Well, I contemplated, you know, because I had nothing else to do. You know, I began to see how in a broad sunny day, everything's clear. And in a dark room, you can imagine anything. And on a bright or a lighted room, like a bedroom with electricity on, you know, you can't imagine ghosts or spirits or monsters under the bed. But you can when to switch off the electricity. I noticed things like that.
The reason I ask is because of how the Buddha formulates the Four Noble Truths. He talks about suffering, and then he talks about these three types of desire. one of which is this desire to get rid of things we don't like or don't want. But in the formulation of the Four Noble Truths, he doesn't speak about the objects of these desires as much as knowing the desire and letting go of desire. Well, that's where my questions are coming from. I was just wondering how you explored that during that period of time.
Well, like flowers are a good reflection because when they're fresh, they're beautiful. And when they start wilting and falling down, they're no longer beautiful. And it's just natural to wanting the Gamadeva, just wanting beautiful flowers to look at. And when they get ugly, you don't want them anymore. Just observing that this kind of natural response that we all have. And Rinpoche used to encourage us to contemplate, like the flowers on the shrine of the temple. When they're fresh, then, we admire them because flowers are always very beautiful. And then when the beautiful flowers no longer have that freshness, that beauty, they start wilting, flopping up, put down, losing their petals, and then they're no longer beautiful, so you don't want them. It's just basic human nature. Just contemplate that. That's the sensual realm.
So in terms of practice, when we find ourselves tending to get caught up in desire, any of the three types of desire, but today we were kind of looking more specifically at the desire to get rid of stuff. Does noticing it automatically allow you to step back from it, or sometimes you can notice it, but it still feels very sticky?
Yeah, well, it was for me a real insight with what done a desire to get rid of it, because I never thought of desire in that way. I never noticed. I just wilted flowers I just get rid of, just like anyone else. You put them in the garden to decay, and then so much of my life during those first 31 years was operating in this strong habit of trying to get rid of what I don't like. I never seen it in terms of desire. But when I became aware of this, the second noble truth, the cause of desire, the word makes it, with the three kinds of desire, it kind of opened up my awareness to desire in a much broader perspective than I had before. I never contemplated my like human excrement. You don't want it. Look at it. Or dog poo on the path and things like this. Like in Switzerland, don't they have plastic bags that you...
Yes, we pick the stuff up.
You don't want dog poop in front of you when you're walking because it's ugly and smelly and unlikable. And yet it has value, as a fertilizer. But generally speaking, just meeting it, when you're not thinking of it in terms of fertilizer, then you just want to get rid of it, get it out of sight. Because that's what the sense realm is. It's not just beautiful, it's also ugly. And we're trained to look at beauty and we're afraid to look at what isn't beautiful. I remember training to be a medic in the Navy. We had to look at movies of leg amputations and in color, and I remember just feeling so averse, sick, physically sick and nauseated and like wanting to faint when I saw them cut into somebody's leg and blood squirted out. And because I never, that's not a beautiful thing to see. And then going to autopsies. Well, Pacha encouraged us to go to autopsies at local hospitals. So I trained myself to go and look at human body being taken apart by somebody who performs those functions. And I got over my aversion to it. I remember one particular funny incident was in one of the big hospitals in Bangkok. When I was staying in Bangkok as a monk, I would go to this hospital to look at autopsies. And one day, I go there in the morning to the hospital, and the man in charge of the autopsy looked at me and he said, "Oh, Ajahn Sumedho, I've got something really good for you." He gave me kind of an evil chuckle, and he led me into this room which smelled like decaying corpses. And I felt the desire to not go in this room. My body was resisting because the stench of a rotting human corpse is absolutely the worst smell you could ever experience. And I could feel my body resisting, and yet I made myself go into this room where this decaying corpse was lying on a table, and it was in advanced decay. It had been found in one of the local canals in Bangkok. It had been there for several days, so it was in the heat of the tropics and everything. It was all that you can imagine. It would be disgusting. And so I went near it. And all the time my physical reaction was to move away from it. But I forced myself to move right next to it. And I stayed there looking at this decaying corpse with the maggots in its eyes and kind of putrid-looking flesh and the incredible stench, until all aversion ceased. I just made myself stay there and look at it. And after a while, the aversion toward what I was looking at vanished. And I could see the kind of beauty of decay, how nature, suddenly it was quite interesting. Rather than just being put off by the stench, the bad odors, or the ugly, what I perceived as ugly, I began to see as interesting. Because I'd never witnessed anything like that, and where my mind was cool and aware of of the unpleasantness of it, but I wasn't getting caught up in Vibodana to get rid of it or to escape the room. I could actually stay there and it became extremely calm and cool and kind of wondered at the way nature takes care of the very function of decay is absolutely necessary. You know, if our bodies never decayed, we'd have all kinds of undecayed human bodies from the past, trogging up everything in life. I mean, it's doing this kind of marvelous function in nature of decay. Just like eating a meal, you know, the food is delicious. You swallow it, it tastes good, and then you expel it. It's no longer desirable in any way. That's just the way that sense objects are. And when you're caught in just dana, bao dana, vipo dana, then you just are a habituated robot of just reacting to things according to whether they're beautiful or ugly or likable or dislikable. Because as you begin to get through the initial, patiently endure through the initial repulsion and fear and disgust, then, you know, something really cool and sublime takes over, which is pure consciousness. I didn't know it at the time that I experienced it looking at this rotting human body. But it takes patience to be able to endure through the momentum of one's habits, because we're, you know, you can see that we are creatures of habit. And we don't know that. We think it's just normal behavior. Where if somebody with just a creature of the habits and then develop any patience would think some kind of monster standing calmly looking at a decaying human body. Because the room itself, you know, the gas in the bodies explode, and there the guts on the ceiling of this room, and everything was repulsive. And fortunately, the body didn't explode while I was there. But this is where patient endurance is a necessity if you're going to develop wisdom. Because if we just operate from habits and we aren't aware that that's what we're doing, then we tend to always be caught in depression or trying to seek adventures and romantic arrangements and excitement, and we take drugs and alcohol because they excite the senses, you know, where the restlessness and boredom and aversion through what we don't like and don't want. If we aren't patient with it, then we distract ourselves to something we like, or just suppress feelings. You know, we develop habits of just holding everything back and suppressing. We become monsters of suppression, where meditation is when you're opening yourself up to the way it is, not to just beautiful flowers and good-looking human beings and beautiful Buddha rupas, but to their opposites.
So it's not so much even that there's any technique that you're applying as much as just the willingness to bear witness to it.
No technique, just patience. Because like going into that room, the body was resisting. You know, the body smelled the stench of putrid rotting. And I felt my body just not wanting to go into that door of that room. You know, it wanted to back out. And I got in. And I kind of used effort in making it, of going in and going up close to the rotting cadaver. And I even touched the skin on the rotting body. Just, trying to see how my repulsion was one thing, and then I could will myself into the room, which was necessary if I was going to learn anything. But so I used willpower against the force of habit of not wanting to go near. But then willpower out of ignorance doesn't work, but patience and reflection, because I'm good at that. I'm good at reflecting on the way it is. I'm not just helplessly caught in the momentum of my karmic habits. Because it's karma, you remember as a child, my mother telling me to not touch dog poop. It's dirty. That's karma. When you're a child, your mother teaches you what's right and wrong and what you should or shouldn't do. But my mother never taught me to observe dog poop.
So that ability to reflect is what makes the difference between you going in there as a monk and then this insight arising, and the coroner who goes in there every day and has to will himself to go into that room, but he's not reflecting in the same way. So he probably doesn't have the same insight.
Well, I think someone who performs autopsies has to can't bother to be sick.
Mm.
When you watch an autopsy, it's rather gruesome in terms of how we perceive the human body. And the man performing the autopsy is just ordinary work. So sawing the top of the head off, somebody's never seen that. It's gruesome to see a human body lying there with the saw, the top of the head is sawed off so you can see the brain, and for one who performs autopsies, that's just today's work. You get used to things. It's not that I'd go and choose to go to look at rotting human corpses. It's not something I really want to do again. You know, it doesn't, but the memory of the kind of coolness I felt when I just stopped resisting life, being in a stinking room with dried guts on the ceiling of the room and a putrid corpse. It was probably a young man, Thai man. You couldn't even tell what sex it was. It was so putrid. And you know, now I could do it if I had to, if I had the opportunity, but there's no need to do that again.
Thank you for these reflections, Paul.
Meditation is very difficult, and most people are too, what should I say, too stupid or too ignorant or too lowly. I don't know exactly what I should say, but anyways, you know, most people don't do the meditation. It's difficult for me too. You know, it's difficult to experience that. So, yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything to share before we wrap up, before we end our live stream for now, for today. We have about 8 hours of live streaming today, so that's a good amount. But this mechanism we're looking at, that we're working with in meditation, is pain avoidance primarily. So if you can learn how to stop avoiding pain, then you won't be so fucking depressed and anxious, and then you won't be a drug addict living at his dad's house, and then you'll be ready to join the meditation retreat with Sayadaw when he comes to America. So there's a lot of benefits and a lot of good points to the Buddhism and the meditation and all that stuff. Real Buddhism, real meditation, not this fake ego stuff. Okay? Anybody out there? Anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything to say? All right. May we all be well, happy, and peaceful. May we all be free from suffering. May we all continue on in our journey each and every moment, each and every day. And may we somehow be supported and support others in our journey. May it be, may it be, may it truly, truly, truly be. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.